the art of Durga Puja is a very interesting hybrid form, to me.
Not everybody becomes an artist, let's say, right? Not everybody is earning out of it. But art can give you a lot of ways to cope. They have gone into fashion, somebody has advertising, somebody has gone into designing cars, people go into filmmaking, because this kind of education gives you a fluidity in thought processes.
Make Calcutta relevant again. You already know. Say. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Make Calcutta Relevant Again, the podcast. Today, here we are with two people from the city who serve very important functions in the world of art. You know, people, when you go and talk about Calcutta as a city, one of the first things they talk about that it's a cultural capital, it's the artistic capital. Is this still relevant? Is this something that still holds true in today's day and age? And on top of that, both of these people are also intrinsically involved in Durga Puja and the way that Durga Puja is evolving in our city. So without any further ado, let me introduce the two guests for today. On my right, we have Sayantan Maitra, curator of MassArt, and an old friend who has been actively working towards branding the Calcutta Durga Puja as the biggest public art festival in the world. On my left, we have Ushmita Sahu, the director of Emami Art, and she is somebody who has been working intrinsically with the Emami group in making sure that there is a bastion in our city where everyone talking about art and culture and be it visual, be it commercial, there is a place that exists in the city which is a center point for all of that activity, for its youth, for the people who care about arts and culture in this beautiful city of ours. So welcome to the podcast today.
Thank you, Meghdut.
I hear it's your first podcast.
Yes, it is officially my first podcast.
So unofficially, what was your first podcast?
Not as a podcast setting, but I've been part of many talks, conversations, etc., but not in this kind of a setting.
So this is where it's a conversation room. We're going to be talking about things that make us comfortable. Sometimes it might not make us comfortable. And feel free to let me know if there's something that you don't want to talk about. But here we are to start off this special edition as part of the MassArt Durga Puja edition of podcast that we're doing together. First up, let me come to you. We've been partnering up with MassArt and creating an image for the Durga Puja, which is otherwise we felt was lacking for the rest of the world. Even in our own country, when you talk about Durga Puja, people still think, oh, it must be something like Ganesh Puja that happens in Maharashtra. Right. They do not understand the scale, the behemoth that the Durga Puja is. So being the curator, being the person who got me involved into this whole madness a few years ago, how has it been for you? How has this, and why did you even start doing it?
These are many questions.
Yeah.
But just to give a short brief on the Durga Puja art of the city, I think we are looking at something like 4,000 plus Durga Pujas of the city in just the city of Kolkata. I'm not even talking of Greater Calcutta, I'm talking of Kolkata. And so Durga Puja essentially are created by these neighborhoods. Sometimes neighborhoods do more than one also. So these neighborhoods is what commissions an artist or an architect to do a Durga Puja, which again is facilitated with 50 to 300 people, who are these agriculturists or, craftsmen who coming from the villages of South Bengal or other places and being here for 4 months and earning enough money to go back and sustain for the rest of the year.
For the rest of the year?
Yes, what a beautiful economy it is, in a sense. And this is what, besides the art, we also want to showcase it because it's a very interesting model. I mean, economic model, because we're talking of entrepreneurship and many other things. I think this should be the first thing. Then we'll come to the art scene. So for me, I was also just one of those visitors. I'm an architect by profession. I studied architecture rather, and I'm working between art and architecture. And I always felt when I was working in Delhi for a long time, I was working as a scenographer, designer.
What is a scenographer for people who are watching?
So scenographer is someone who essentially works with a curator and we'll come to that question.
What is
also,
a curator? Yes.
Should, this
Maybe
is what-
she'll answer the first.
Yes.
That
So scenographer is someone who's a designer who has some basic knowledge of the art history of every artist, probably, and understands space, understands technology, and can help support a curator who has a huge body of work to present in a museum space or a gallery space. Now, a curator can also get biased or confused, because if you're working with, let's say, 20 artists, you have some, some more, lovable artists and some people you like lesser. So where do you draw the line? How do you build that story, So that's where a scenographer comes in with a much more neutral perspective and works with a curator on a very complex body of shows.
you're talking about public art and your
Yes,
background
yes.
in
So-
coming from architecture.
So basically, coming back to scenography and doing these shows with curators in these museum spaces, I was provoked, and I kept on thinking, what is this? Why do people or why do common people don't come into these spaces? I mean, I was young that time, so that also led me to be part of this festival, the largest public art festival that time, 48 degrees centigrade, because that was the Delhi's highest temperature that year. It was 2008. So I got to design that festival. It was in 8 different sites in Delhi. Still then I figured people were still not very enthused about seeing public spaces, even art that way. I mean, that as much as we would get to see in Kolkata.
And which
for-
year
But
was
don't you?
this?
But don't you
This
think
is,
that
I'm talking 2008.
Acha.
I think the times have also changed, right?
Yes.
People are much more used to
Right.
having these public festivals and spectacles. We have so many art festivals as well. Spread
Nothing was there
across,
that
yeah.
time. I mean, in terms of, it was the first one. I'm saying,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. So from there, I had this idea that I should invest in a way, invest my time and energy and all the artists I get to work with, who are friends, to provoke them to come and work with me in other public sites, public spaces. So I indulged in the first one work in Sikkim, in Gangtok, called Blooming Sikkim. That was my first public art festival, which we organized. Then I did one in Hornbill Public Art Festival
In Nagaland.
In Nagaland. Then I did a border project in
Calcutta.
crossing border, not Calcutta. It was in Meghalaya.
Acha.
So
This was not the border
Cherrapunji.
movement. This is not the one with.
No.
Yeah. Okay. with
So,
Goethe
so
Institute.
these sites also meant that there were no galleries there, and people had a little bit more time than these major cities, and so they would indulge. They would question, they would see, and these are not paintings or sculptures, nothing like that. So they were installations. There was sound art, there was video art, there was interactive, art,
Experiential art, yeah.
this thing. And later on, I came back to Calcutta that time, and we started working with, these fringes of Kolkata. Many artists who work there, Chadirat for one instance, and again started working from border. I started working on migration again in public art in those spaces like Behala and all, where again no one goes or used to go out. Now again that has picked up. So these people also were involved in Durga Puja in a way. So this is how I started my association with these artists who worked dually with, doing art in certain public spaces, also doing Durga Puja. So this is my connection of Durga Puja. And then now, after several years of looking at Durga Puja and all, we realized that we need to come together, like neighborhoods are always fighting, neighborhoods
Against
are
each other.
against
It
each
is
other.
Amar Pada versus
So
Tomar Pada.
what MassArt was all about was trying to get all of them together in one platform, look at it like a city. And that is the path to growth, basically.
So we'll come back to that. Let me come to you. You come from a slightly different space. You was talking about more public art. I think you don't come from a space of essentially from of public art or creating experiences for public. Your at least your work with Emami Art has been around bringing people into a closed space and then showing them certain kinds of art, if I understand correctly. But you also did get to experience the MassArt Durga Puja preview last year. So in terms of how your journey as an artist or art curator moved you into the position in Emami, and how, if at all, that got challenged by the idea of the Durga Puja preview that you got to witness last year.
Okay, so thank you, Meghdut. And so your question has several parts. Let me, kind of
Start
tackle.
with being what is a curator?
What is
Yeah.
a
So
curator
let me
first?
tackle it part by part. Just to add, like, Sayantan has a background in architecture, and I have a background in fine arts or visual arts. I studied painting from Delhi College of Arts, and then masters from Shantiniketan. And I think we both have a different journey, but a similar thing, that when we started out into curation, or to understand what curation was, this is not something that we have studied. This is something that has come out organically.
So for the layman, what is a
yeah.
curator?
So
What
a
is curation?
curator, like Sayantan was explaining, that a scenographer is somebody who perhaps gives a vision, or gives a practical vision to what a curator
Is
has thought
imagining.
of. A curator is somebody who works closely with artists, visual artists. It could be, across sound art or moving image artists, to understand and sometimes work on a longer term with them. For instance, I have been mentoring and working with some younger artists for now more than a decade. Um, and then you try to understand these different practices and to bring it together into a meaningful discourse. For instance, when you're going to a market, you want to buy some clothes. You have an idea that I have a wedding to attend and I want to buy certain kinds of clothes. Then you know which shop to go to. It's not, every shop will not cater to that particular need, right? And even then, if you have even more specialized needs, then you call upon a stylist
Stylist.
or a designer to put together a look for you, every look, similarly, but not the same. A curator works with a larger body of artists, artworks, then creates something new out of it. So when you're going to see an exhibition, if perhaps you've seen artist A's work somewhere else, but in this particular exhibition that you're going to, you this artist's work is speaking or reacting to other artists' works that have been chosen by the curator and brought together to talk about a certain perspective. Coming to what you said about the art gallery and the challenge of viewership, what Boka was saying about Durga Puja, and that it's a public art spectacle that is open to everyone, whereas an art gallery is somewhat elitist in people's mind. It's something not everybody knows ki connect a art gallery. Actually, I need to go and see this, which is rather sad because we are open to the public.
But can I pause you there on one
Yeah.
thing? I actually don't think it's a function of the door itself. I find it very intimidating to go to galleries myself, and I've been to pretty much all the big major festivals. I have been to Art Basel, I've been to Biennale, and I still think in India there's a certain amount of like you feel like you're not enough if you have to go to an art gallery. What conversation do you have? What do you talk to people about?
I mean, it's both ways, right? There is a perception problem, hence people think that, like you rightly point out, there is a kind of a struggle to enter these spaces, which are wide cube spaces. Maybe people don't feel free enough to get into it. But again, I like to give examples. You'll find out.
I think we
you know.
figured out that
So,
already.
because I have spent most of my time in Shantiniketan, and I divide my time right now between Shantiniketan and Kolkata. So in Shantiniketan, there are these small shops which sell clothes, again, coming to that. And now there are these bigger, mall kind of shops. And, my household help, I tell them sometimes that, these bigger shops may have something which is cheaper than the big shops. But the perception is, অত বড় বাড়ি এসি চলছে গার্ড আছে আমি কি করে
খরচাটা
ঢুকবো
বেশি
খরচা so this is we have to ensure that that frame of mind when it comes to viewership of art has to change. What I have tried to do since coming on board as the director is I've tried to create these programs, these exhibitions, and also these public facing programs around it, so that all kinds of people can come in. So let's say we have an exhibition. We had a 2.5 month long exhibition of the artist K.G. Subramaniam in his 100th anniversary year. Around that, we designed more than 20 public programs, which included shadow puppetry for children, which included Shora, talks around Shora, which included a workshop with, people who just wanted to join in, bookmaking, sign making, like something that appeals to everybody. And over the years, what this has helped us to do is to create that, value that maybe not everybody can understand the aesthetics of what the artwork is about, or the highbrow, things attached to it. But there is always a easier way also to enter into art.
That's a very inclusive way of looking at things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, coming back to, again, public art and Durga Puja, I'm not calling it a public art. I will not do that. But Durga Puja model, the art of Durga Puja is a very interesting hybrid form, to me. Why hybrid? Because you can't put it in like it's site specific or public art or this thing, then there'll be a problem, in representation. But I look at it as a very interesting form and evolving form. So, I think artists who are also working in galleries, some of them also do Durga Puja art. And somehow, this is the fun part, is millions of people visit these Durga Pujas. Some of them, of course. So how do they connect with people? And when I talk about people, and that's where I started off a gallery practice and a public space. So in a public space, there's all kinds of people, right? So this cup is a cup to me, maybe something else to someone else. It's a form to it. It's a color for someone. It is completely something else for someone else. So this interpretation, or actually capturing this interpretation, is very difficult. How do, somehow how it magically works out in a Durga Puja, I'm also trying to figure out.
And it's been happening for long before that we have seen
it. Yes. So this is a very interesting format and everyone has an opinion. So whereas when you go into a white cube, it's also probably a mental this thing where even you were mentioning that you also get confused how to react to something or why you're not reacting to something.
But I think one must also take into cognizance that for a lower middle class Bengali kid whose parents want the kid to probably go and make a living and pull the family out of poverty, or even whatever, let's not say real poverty, but still some kind of poverty, and climb up the social ladder, they believe that because art itself is not mapped to the economy and economic growth, unless you're at a very high scale, it's probably much harder to do, right? Like, how are kids from government art colleges currently making enough money? And blunt question again, are they making enough money to actually sustain themselves and their families? And do you think that has a negative repercussion on the way that education has itself also sort of self-modulated in order to not send too many people towards that space? Because it's easier to get a job if you go to an engineering college or to a legal college or to go and become a doctor, and then you move ahead on that path.
See, I'm not very cognizant about the engineering etc. side, but what I look at it from an outsider's perspective, I feel that if you have studied, let's say, medical or engineering, you are geared towards a certain way of thinking. However, if you've studied, let's say, visual arts or fine arts, then you can do anything. Like if you're studied at, let's say, design institute like NID, you have so many avenues open to you. Not everybody becomes an artist, let's say, right? Not everybody is earning out of it, but art can give you a lot of ways to cope. In Sayantan, like he was mentioning, so many are involved, so many artists who have studied art are involved in this huge economic endeavor.
Coming to that, I mean, see, no college of art is empty. Don't think like that. So that the only science colleges and engineering colleges are full, and the humanities or the art streams are also full. So it's not, I would have taken your word if you'd said ki dekho.
No, it was an honest question. I do not know.
No, I'm telling you. So 50% is empty. No, it's also full to its brim.
Yeah.
So it's not that.
Rather, there's surplus that don't get admission.
Now actually I think the mindset is changing. Like they're also thinking of other possibilities. Like sports is a possibility. A lot of people think. At my childhood,
that was
we
not a
used to-
possibility.
No, absolutely not. I was playing sport, but I was discouraged at some point after school. So you have to, those days are kind of changed. Of course, there's a upper the class is also important here to acknowledge that who's doing art and who's doing sports.
True. I mean, is it perhaps? I mean, even if you look at design schools, say for example, I run 2 design schools, and I know that these are expensive programs.
Right.
We are not talking about the same price bracket than a government program that they would be running. But at the same time, the kids also get opportunities to go and do internships at global design firms or go for exchanges to other design colleges across the world. That's a different kind of access, and that's probably only available to people of a certain strata from society. My point was more on the access for people within government colleges, government art colleges, and what happens to them after.
Right. So
That is an answer I
I'll
still-
counter
So
that.
just if I may, for instance, the art colleges, barring a few, I think there are 3 or 4 private art colleges. The majority of the art colleges are within the government and semi-government space, so they are quite accessible. They are quite accessible to people across all kinds of social backgrounds. And I think, I studied years back in Delhi, and all my classmates from then or later when I was in master's degree in Kala Bhavan, and students were coming, there's nobody that I've seen who's not doing something or not gainfully employed, whether it is they have gone into fashion, somebody has advertising, somebody has gone into, I was just speaking to my husband today, somebody has gone into designing cars, somebody, people go into filmmaking, because this kind of education gives you a
Huge
fluid,
bracket. Yeah, very
it
fluid.
gives you fluidity in thought processes and also skill.
Right.
The skill can be used across various genres of employment.
So when we were talking about so many people, skilled people, artists especially, working in a platform like Durga Puja, I think Durga Puja art, what it has given, which is unparalleled in anywhere else in the world probably, I vouch for that, is that huge space and scope to play with materials. Nowhere else there are artists who are working with spectacular materials all over the world, but they are in their own studio spaces. Even in universities and other spaces, you don't have that liberty to work with so much of material, so much of scale and things. So which Durga Puja gives. And a lot of students bound to are coming from these colleges, as interns. That's how they start.
So let's come to the point of patronage. I want to hear first about Durga Puja and its patronage, and how important do you think scaling up the Durga Puja as the world's largest public art festival, how important patronage from big organizations would be on that?
See, as I'm saying, this is a neighborhood-driven festival, and sponsorships are very important for this thing. But I was also trying to hint at, the possibility of, people outside Calcutta and outside Bengal coming in, seeing it, receiving it, feeling this festival of Durga Puja art. So if they come, it opens immense doors. So many these things. I'm just talking, let's say, cultural sector. You were talking about other things, but let's talk about sheer cultural sector. The number of people who we are inviting now and who we are expecting this year will open so many doors for patronage in a way. They will look at huge possibilities rather than us seeking it. I think we are at this verge of 4th year of struggling with this thing or trying to make people understand what is this feeling of this experience.
Yes.
I think we are there. In a couple of more years, people are going to start investing in this cultural
and not
sector.
just through culture. I mean, if I look at myself as an educationist,
Yeah.
I'm also showing off this to people as an as a way of educating them about Calcutta.
Right.
Right. I see it. Okay, whether it's a group of entrepreneurs, people who run startups, founders of startups, people who run educational groups, or people who are cultural change makers around the world, bringing them here also creates that other soft power that okay, here is a place which you could potentially be investing in, and that helps across all sectors, not even just investment in the arts.
I always felt when I was in Delhi, which for a long time I was not in Kolkata. I'm here for last, let's say, 7-8 years. So I always felt that Calcutta had become like a shadow zone, you know. Like we talk about Northeastern, which is the shadow zone. We don't talk about it. Information does not come out of it. Somehow Calcutta also become like that. But I think we're changing it now, right? I mean, that's the idea, to change it. The moment you make these people land up in Kolkata, they will start talking about Kolkata and they'll start seeing possibilities in Kolkata. The first thing is to get them here. That's what is the main target.
I think I agree with this. And as we were also discussing this before we started speaking, was that it's very important to create these kind of spaces of ferment, as I say, right? So, for instance, when I was also growing up in Delhi it was only when I came to study in Shantiniketan and later that I've been in Kolkata and working in this whole art and culture field, you always find these, these comments. Even I think it has changed and we've really worked hard to change it, that Calcutta is old-fashioned, What new comes out of Calcutta? What is any new artwork coming out of Calcutta? This is something that we've always heard. And I have always pointed out, let's take into account, the big names, artists in India. Half of them, or if not half, a quarter of them, trace back their roots to Bengal.
Yeah.
And Shantiniketan. And, let's not forget that there's a huge impact that this space has had historically. And because historical things remain in people's mind, and Delhi, Bombay, which are the spaces for art in India, they tend to overlook places that are not centralized. So it's been an onus on us to do our programming in such a way that people are bound to look at us and to see that what they, perhaps it may not have been apparent to them, because let's be frank, they are looking at their own regions. So coming to your question of patronage, it has been, I think, in Emami and KCC's journey, the patronage of the family Emami group has been extremely important. I mean, here is a family who's celebrating their 50th year actually this year. And for them to build a state-of-the-art art and culture center, built to purpose building, where you can not only find visual arts, but you can find programming on any given day, which is music, theatre, dance, films, education, DEI, talks, across the, board, it's very important. And this kind of patronage is also very important in the visual arts across India. And most of it comes from privately funded organizations, individuals, because I think the government does its bit. However, that's not enough. And for state-of-the-art, cutting-edge, programming, it's always come out of the private sector. So I think patronage is extremely important.
We also have to look at, when you talk about patronage, we have to realize that some of the biggest families had their roots in Bengal.
Yeah.
That is true. Yeah,
and we need to again get them back. I mean, to at least,
And they're also collectors and patrons.
they feel for it. I mean, I've spoken to so many of them and they always say, like they're born in Kolkata, studied in Kolkata, and, they wish to do certain things. So I think this is also something we need to get them, pull them into.
Yeah.
And hopefully Durga Puja will be a good anchor point for them to get reminded that of all the good things that Calcutta is still building.
Right.
I think one of the things I personally struggle with the most is the lack of Calcutta in conversations that you're having nationally, internationally, around whatever topic. I mean, it's not because you are from the arts, so probably conversations around art is happening a lot. But, when we are talking about the youth, then they are talking about everything. And in most of those conversations across various disciplines or sectors, we're not having Calcutta as part of the conversation, as part of the common parlance, as part of anywhere where there is energy. So I think the Durga Puja's foray into to becoming a preview puja, becoming this vessel for investments to come in, has definitely contributed and will continue contributing towards this newer future where Durga Puja is spoken about more, referenced more. It's almost like references in a PhD paper, right? How many times is the name coming in? And we are very glad that we are in the city, growing up in the city at the same time when KCC is bringing about this KCC and Emami Art group. I mean, Richa's work has been phenomenal. That's why we collaborate also on the Emami Arts Festival, bringing what we can as well. With music, I have a special connection, so that's why we did the Lost Treasures of Bengal exhibition last time. But I didn't have to feel like I was in a white cube because I don't understand the rest of it. But the music I understand, and it was easy to bring in that. So.
No, but that's fantastic that you've collaborated on this, and it shows that you're open to ideas. We are completely open. So it would be great if even your technological students, like whom we were addressing earlier, they can just be brought in. They don't have to do anything. Just come. If you come 10 times, something will strike you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean that's the way. We were
same with Durga Puja, same with private spaces.
It's about widening your boxes. Like we all have certain limitations. How do we spread out those like that space of what we know? It can either come through education, you are educated in certain areas, but it can also come through experience. And that experience, if you open yourself, you come and see things, you just come and sit there, don't have to understand, don't have to feel the pressure of you're not giving an exam after that. You just come, experience it.
Yeah.
And perhaps somewhere down the line, something as art has that insidious way of changing you from inside out, and you won't even be aware, but something would have changed. But you have to be open to letting that change happen.
I think as an ending note, I have been on the receiving end of what you just finished with, that art has an insidious way of changing the way of perceptions in the human brain. My sister is an artist, and she's the first artist in our entire family. I think in last 14 generations, anybody in our family has been an artist. And she was one of those kids who was apparently struggling with school because she just could not relate to school. And she was like, this modern cookie cutter method of education is not for me. So even if she could potentially come first in class because she was extremely gifted, but she just chose not to because it was her way of saying, no, this is not what I want. And through conversations, figuring out that she's not somebody who's going to walk the beaten path. And then eventually, through our design and art schools, putting her in that frame of mind, and then eventually her getting into 6 out of the 7 top art schools that she applied to globally, and now her studying at UAL. She just did her first exhibition in London. I understand truly what you mean, is that not everything or every kind of education is for everyone. Definitely the way in India we've figured out education, at least the last generations, it's like one size fits all. I think that method does not work. We need a lot more. We need maybe 50 more Emami Arts to come up. We need 50,000 more people coming in from outside of the country to appreciate the Durga Puja every day of the preview festival. And then we're looking at real change, that human perceptions will change only when there is a critical mass reached. And with all of those conversations happening, hopefully we will be able to make Calcutta relevant again, create modern day idols, and not going back into the fact that, the city has shown us 25% of those artists that you mentioned have probably come from Calcutta, but do the people of Calcutta know about it? Are they even talking about it? So the conversations need to happen both nationally, internationally, as well as within the city.
Yeah.
And then you're talking about a whole bunch of people who want to come back to the city, build their businesses here, build their families here, put the kids through school here, and then maybe we're on to something good.
If I may just say, like you said, make Calcutta relevant, and again, I think as a space, Calcutta has always been relevant. It's just that different times have, maybe the relevance has been different. Ebbed and flowed. But also, you were asking that point earlier in the conversation, that where does the perception lie? The perception lies in both spaces, people who live outside, but people who also live within.
Correct.
So there has to be some bridging of the gaps, and I think that's happening. I think that's happening with.
We're in good times,
Yeah,
I think.
I think
for sure.
we're in
Yeah,
exciting.
definitely.
Yeah, exciting times.
Even the fact that we're having these conversations
Yeah,
is exciting.
Yeah.
Right? That there is intent, if
And-
nothing else.
And there is also a change of the guard, so to speak.
Yeah.
People are more open to different kinds of artistic approaches, whether it is something that's more mass appeal or something that is maybe
niche
perhaps
or-
a niche.
Yeah.
And there is an openness to it. And I think one of the things that I have learned over the years is that when we started to what the journey has been now over the 6-7 years of Emami Art existing, is that there's a huge change in younger audiences. There's a huge change in younger art college or college goers who are now open because they see the world through these social media and
And
the
they're very
TikTok.
critical questioning they do
Yeah,
at
and of
times.
Of course, there's so much more
They
information
have the
available,
world
right?
in their palms, right?
Yeah,
Literally.
literally.
So they are also looking for that reflection of that in the milieu that they live in, and they are finding it. So I think we have the relevance. It's just that the perception needs to be attuned a little more across the country. Yeah.
Definitely on the right path here, ladies and gentlemen. And what a lovely conversation about how art changes perceptions and the way that we think, the wiring of our brains itself. Kudos to Boka for continuing. This is the 4th year of the MassArt preview pujo. If you want to have a VIP access and get to actually meet the artists who are building the Durga Puja, please go and become part of the preview pujo. We're going to share all the details on the video itself. And if you're interested in art, and even if you're not actually interested in art but want to find something to do with your boyfriend, with your girlfriend, with your partner, with your mother, father, uncle, aunt on a Sunday afternoon, go
Or any
visit,
day.
or any day for
Or
that
any
matter.
day.
If
Every day.
every day, go visit Emami Art, go visit the KCC building. They do have some incredible exhibitions, always on and beautifully curated. And thank you for that, Ushmita. Thank you for doing
Thank you so
the
much.
great work in the city of joy. We'll come back to you with another special episode as the series continues on the Durga Puja edition. But till then, this is Meghdut signing off. See you very, very soon. Let's keep working on making Calcutta relevant again. Thank you.
Make Calcutta relevant again. You already know. Relevant again. Make Calcutta relevant again.